In 1991, a young mother left her boyfriend's house to walk 5 minutes home. She never arrived, and the man who took her life spent the next 33 years living freely because the investigation that could have caught him was shut down before it ever truly began. Nicola Payne was 22 years old. She had a baby son named Owen, just 5 months old, who needed her home. She had a whole life stitched together from ordinary things: love, family, routine, the kind of small daily rituals that make up a world. On the morning of December 14, 1991, she kissed her boyfriend goodbye at his parents' house in Wood End, Coventry, and set off on a shortcut across a stretch of wasteland known locally as the Broad Lane Industrial Estate. It was a route she had walked before. It was supposed to take 5 minutes. She was never seen alive again. What followed was not simply a tragedy, it was a failure, a systemic, documented, catastrophic failure. One that would consume her family for more than 3 decades and allow a killer to breathe free air while they buried their grief in silence and unanswered questions. When Nicola didn't come home, her family raised the alarm immediately. Police were called. A search was launched. The wasteland was examined. But the early investigation moved with a caution that, in hindsight, looks like negligence. Potential witnesses were not pursued aggressively. The crime scene, such as it was, yielded no body, no immediate forensic clarity, and without those anchors, the investigation began to drift. Theories multiplied. Had she run away? Had she left voluntarily? The suggestion, however briefly entertained, was a wound to her family that never fully healed. Nicola had a 5-month-old baby. She had not walked away from her life. She had been taken from it. Suspects did emerge. 2 local men were questioned in the early 90s, including Owen Walters. He was known to police. He had been in the area, but without a body, without forensic evidence that the technology of the time could process, the case stalled. Charges were not brought. The men were released, and gradually, with the terrible bureaucratic momentum that cold cases acquire, Nicola Payne's file moved from active to archived. Her family did not archive their grief. For 33 years, they asked questions. They wrote letters. They spoke to journalists. They attended reviews. They lived inside the uncertainty of not knowing where Nicola was, whether she had ever been found, whether justice would ever wear a face. Her son Owen grew up without his mother. He grew up knowing only that she had walked into a winter morning and disappeared into a gap in the world that no one in authority seemed urgently motivated to close. The case was reviewed periodically. Each review brought fresh hope and then fresh silence. In 2002, 2 men, Walters and another individual, were arrested and charged with Nicola's murder. The case collapsed. Insufficient evidence. They walked free again. For her family, it was not just a legal setback. It was another death, another burial with no body, no closure, no name carved into accountability. But the world was changing in ways that the killers of 1991 could never have anticipated. Forensic science was not standing still. DNA technology was advancing with a speed and precision that would eventually reach backward through time and pull the truth out of the dark. In 2022, West Midlands Police Cold Case Review Unit reopened the investigation. This time, they had tools that did not exist when Nicola first vanished. Forensic genealogy, the same methodology that had broken open cases in the United States, tracing DNA through ancestry databases and family trees, was applied to biological material that had been preserved for decades. It was painstaking, it was methodical, and it worked. In October 2022, human remains were discovered on the site of the former Broad Lane Industrial Estate. After 31 years, Nicola Payne had been found. She had never left. She had been there all along, less than half a mile from the home she never reached. buried in the ground while the world moved on above her. The discovery was devastating and necessary in equal measure. Her family finally knew. The not knowing, at least, was over. What the forensic review also delivered was something else. A thread of biological evidence, examined through the lens of advanced genealogical analysis, pointed once again at Owen Walters. The technology that hadn't existed in 1991, that had been insufficient in 2002, now spoke with a clarity that could not be dismissed or circumvented. In 2023, Walters was arrested again. This time, the evidence held. Owen Walters stood trial in 2024. He was convicted of the murder of Nicola Payne. He was sentenced. After 33 years, the law finally delivered the verdict that her family had carried inside them as knowledge for 3 decades. But justice, when it arrives this late, arrives with shadows. Because the question that lingered in the courtroom, in the press coverage, in the grief-worn faces of Nicola's family, was not only who killed her, it was why it took so long, and whether a faster answer might have been possible if the original investigation had been conducted differently. The failings of the early investigation were not abstract, they were specific. Forensic opportunities were missed. Witness testimony was not followed up with sufficient urgency. The site where Nicola's remains were eventually found was not subjected to the kind of thorough excavation that, in retrospect, should have been considered from the beginning. Whether those failings were the result of limited resources, limited technology, or something more troubling, a diminished urgency, a willingness to let ambiguity serve as closure, is something the formal record does not fully resolve. What is clear is this: a killer lived freely for 33 years. A mother was taken from her child before that child was old enough to form a single memory of her face. And the systems that exist to protect people, to pursue killers, to deliver truth to families, fell short in ways that compounded the original crime across every year of its duration. The case of Nicola Payne became something larger than one woman's murder. It became a landmark in the history of cold case justice in the United Kingdom. It demonstrated that forensic genealogy, carefully applied, could reach further back in time than any previous tool. It demonstrated that remains preserved for decades could still speak, still carry evidence, still carry enough biological truth to identify both victim and perpetrator. It opened a door that had been sealed since 1991 and revealed that behind it was not mystery, but solvable fact. It also became an indictment, a formally documented, publicly aired indictment of what happens when investigations are closed prematurely, when the pressure of resource constraints or public attention diminishes, and the case becomes a number rather than a name. Nicola Payne was always a name. She was always a person. She was a mother, a daughter, a partner, a 22-year-old woman who deserved to walk 5 minutes home and arrive safely. She did not arrive safely. And for 33 years, that failure compounded in silence. Her son, Owen, named before his mother was taken, before his name would carry the weight of coincidence, grew up. He built a life in the absence of her. He became a man in a world shaped by her absence and by the questions she left behind her on that December morning. When the conviction was announced in 2024, he spoke publicly about his mother. Not with bitterness, though bitterness would have been entirely earned. With love, with the particular resilient love of someone who had carried a person's memory across a lifetime without once being able to lay it down. That love is the through line of this story. Not the failures, not the forensics, not the courtroom verdict, though all of those things matter. The through line is a family that refused to let Nicola Payne become a cold statistic, that refused to accept the bureaucratic silence, that kept saying her name until the world was finally forced to listen and act, because the systems failed her. The investigation failed her. The original inquiry that might have caught her killer in 1992 or 1993